They met on a day when everything seemed to go wrong. Yuna was just trying to close her little flower shop before the rain started, but fate had other plans. She turned around, bumped into someone, and spilled a whole bucket of water, all over a man's papers. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" he shouted, his voice cold and sharp. Yuna froze. The man in front of her, tall, handsome, but with eyes that carried too much pain, glared at her like she had ruined his entire life. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, grabbing tissues, trying to save his soaked manuscript, but it was too late. He snatched the papers from her and hissed, "You're careless." Then he turned and walked away into the rain. That was how Yuna met Minho, a best-selling novelist who'd forgotten how to smile. Later that night, as Yuna locked up the shop, she noticed an old, soaked envelope lying near her doorstep. It was addressed to someone named Han Saw Jin. Curious, she picked it up, wondering who it belonged to. She hesitated at first, but something about the handwriting pulled her in. When she opened it, her heart broke. It was a love letter, a farewell written by someone who knew they wouldn't live to say goodbye. The words were filled with pain, regret, and longing. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "Whoever this was, they must have loved deeply." The next day, when a customer came to buy flowers, Yuna froze. It was him, the rude man from yesterday. In his hand was a picture frame, and inside was the same handwriting from the letter. Realization hit her like thunder. The letter belonged to him. "Excuse me," she said softly, "I think this belongs to you." He took the envelope, looked at it, and his face turned pale. "Where did you get this?" "It was outside my shop. I read it. I didn't mean to." Before she could finish, he snatched it from her hand, ripped it in half, and threw it away. "You had no right to read what's mine," he said coldly. Yuna's eyes filled with tears. "I just wanted to return it." "Then next time return it without touching it." He walked away, leaving her heart trembling, not from anger, but from something else. Pity. That night, Minho couldn't sleep. He dreamed of his late fiancé, Saw Jin, for the first time in years. In his dream, she smiled and whispered, "She found the letter for a reason." Days turned into weeks. By a strange twist of fate, Minho's publisher forced him to take a break from the city, and he ended up renting a small apartment right across from Yuna's flower shop. Every morning, she watered her flowers, and every morning he sat by the window, typing on his laptop. At first, they avoided each other. Then they began to exchange short glances, a nod, a smile, a quiet good morning. Slowly, the walls between them started to crumble. Minho began visiting her shop, at first for coffee, then for flowers. "These are for writing inspiration," he'd say, pretending not to notice how Yuna's smile made his chest feel warm. Yuna, too, started to see a different side of him. He wasn't rude anymore. He was lonely, a man trapped by memories he couldn't let go of. One evening, it started to rain heavily. Yuna ran outside to save her flowers from the storm, and suddenly Minho appeared beside her, holding an umbrella. "You'll get sick," he said quietly. "I don't mind the rain. It reminds me of someone I lost." Minho looked at her for a long time. You lost someone too? She nodded. My fiancé. 5 years ago. Car accident. Minho's hands tightened around the umbrella. 5 years ago? Where? She mentioned the place, and his world froze. That was the same night, the same accident that took his fiancée, Sa-jin. He stepped back, heart pounding. Did you know it was the same accident? Yuna's eyes filled with tears. I didn't want you to hate me for surviving. The rain fell harder, mixing with their tears. For the first time, Minho felt the weight of his grief lift, because someone else had carried the same pain all along. After that night, they began spending more time together. They wrote a book, a story about two souls who met through loss and found love again. The more they wrote, the more they healed. Months passed. Seasons changed, and on the anniversary of the accident, Yuna and Minho drove to the place where everything had ended, and also where everything had begun. Yuna placed a white lily on the roadside and whispered, "Maybe they wanted us to found each other." Minho took her hand gently and said, "Maybe love doesn't die. It just changes who carries it." And as the rain began to fall again, he leaned in and kissed her, soft, trembling, and full of everything they never said. It was the same kind of rain that had brought pain years ago, but this time it brought peace. And in that quiet, rainy moment, two hearts that had been shattered finally found their way home. Because sometimes love doesn't begin with fireworks, it begins with loss, with pain, and with someone who chooses to stay even when it rains.